Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Counselor's Office. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor. Scholars! Just an update. Green screen. Mike. I am still working on the Heresy review. I'm kind of waiting because they hinted at fixing things for episode Heresy, like the collectibles, April 22nd. And just by the off chance that they do some kind of conclusion, I want to make sure I don't try to rush out this review. So I'm letting it cook. I'm almost done with the script, and then I've already started working on skits. As you can see, we will be putting that together eventually. If anything, it'll be next weekend that it is hopefully done. However, I do have a marathon video that I'm custom making myself. I'm just collecting all the pieces that I need, just like it's the Infinity Stones. And just like the Infinity Stones, we've been doing a lot of these videos. And here we are. We're doing another react to Bellular news. I have not actually watched one of these videos before. I have no idea who this is. It looks like they're a little bit more popular than Legendary Drops, which I loved Legendary Drops. If you have not watched that video, watch it. It is an hour long, but that's because I go in detail about some of the comments he makes. And I also have a mini rant, I think, that really conceptualizes the problem with the modern gaming, companies and what they want to shove out to gamers and what we actually want. But one of the videos that he's published 7 hours ago, this is going to be later because you're seeing this the next day, Bungie's nightmare scenario. Bungie insiders, leaders to cut and run after Marathon, which we heard something about this from Ubisoft, and it turned out to be true. They worked out a deal with Tencent, and yeah, and if this is true in the leaders, which I absolutely, before we even watch this, I can believe that they're absolutely going to try to do it, because historically they just don't care about the developers, they don't care about the gamers. So I'm very interested to see where this goes. Let's jump into it.
So what about those Marathon impressions? I think it's accurate to say that they are mixed, and that makes the story fascinating because just about everything surrounding this story is mixed. Bungie appears to be a bit of a disaster as a studio. It's had so much bad news. Destiny 2, by all accounts, is bleeding out. Concord got executed. Much of PlayStation's live game plan got cancelled, and to top the whole bloody thing up...
Which is funny because that live game got cancelled because of Bungie. But they were like, hey, we know how to ruin live services. Take from our failures. Don't do it.
Marathon's development has been, by so many accounts, pretty damn troubled. I mean, hell, per Skill Up, they, 5 months from their planned launch, haven't started writing the narrative. And if I was to list every...
Holy shit! Okay, I've heard this. I didn't know it's actually confirmed by Skill Up. I've heard some, it is actually confirmed that they have not actually written a script. I was like, maybe people were just joking and not that's hearsay. But the fact that it's actually being spoken, that is insane. And I thought it was 6 months, 5 months. Ooh.
Point of concern that people have rightly got and, have been rumored, the intro of this video would last for the whole darn video. So instead of doing that, let's begin with the foundation of all of this, which of course is Bungie. The large story here is that PlayStation bought Bungie to spearhead their push towards live services, but now so much of that push is dead, and Bungie is a very different studio to the one that PlayStation acquired. You've got the final shape, which was really good, but its shot at undoing the miss that was Lightfall has essentially been squandered. That game is struggling per player numbers. They've changed the monetization, they've changed the content model, and broadly, Bungie have had so many other issues. There have been multiple layoff rounds. Those layoff rounds have led to people leaking to the press, talking about awful morale and people having a dim view of the future. A future made even more dim by, well, PlayStation management publicly blame.
By the way, before we read this, they literally told them to get their head out of their asses. The CEO was like, yeah, you've got to get your head out of Bungie has to get their head out of their asses. And it's funny that people like to ignore the Destiny community, especially the high ups in the community, leaders and content creators. They're like, what? Nope, don't know what you're talking about. Everything's good. There's no problem. The game's fine. Everything's fine. Player counts are fine.
blaming Bungie's leadership for failing to meet targets. Not that being rumored, in actual investor-facing statements, them getting the blame. And
Hold on, I want to read that because I don't know if I've seen this. Okay, I visited Bungie Studios and had meetings with management, and I saw that employees were highly motivated, showing great creativity as well as impressive knowledge of live service. However, there was room for improvement with regard to areas such as the use of business expenses and assuming accountability for development timelines. Yeah, Bungie's really bad at timelines.
Investor-facing statements, them getting the blame. And currently, there is a belief that the board of Bungie are essentially just playing for time until their stock options from that acquisition can be divested. So basically, they will be able to sell their stock, be very rich, and then leave. And then once that happens, Sony will take over and Bungie will really not be that independent whatsoever. So this is an
And now you see why people make jokes about Pete Parsons having 20 cars. He's about to have 100.
awful atmosphere, and it's an atmosphere that very much means all hopes are pinned on Marathon. If it is a miss, it will be truly existential to Bungie, and that's probably why Bungie's developers are going all out to convince the public that this is actually worth paying attention to, and that it's not going to be a Concord. Marathon was revealed after a shockingly cool ARG with a flash.
They're not only that, but they are also desperate to get their the Bungie like, I feel like some of the content creators who are attached to Bungie, like if you remove Bungie, them as streamers, they will have no revenue. Like their revenue, so their livelihood is attached to Bungie, and I feel like Bungie's like let them in on the like, hey, your job's on the line, our job's on the line. Try to help save us and save each other.
Cinematic from an award-winning director. It really was pretty cool, along with a bunch of gameplay trailers and an on-site hands-on with press and streamers. Here's what we learned, and look, this is going to feel almost like I'm going down a list of features, but I'm doing that for a reason. That is how this game is being discussed, which immediately is a little bit of an issue for Bungie. If something is being reduced into a feature set, that means the experience is not what's being talked about.
It's not good.
That's a problem if you want your game to be marketable. So, Marathon is a sci-fi multiplayer extraction FPS where you get loot by searching facilities, where you fight NPCs, you fight other players, and then, shockingly, you extract. It's the classic extraction shooter stuff.
Wow.
I mean, you've got grid-based inventory, weapon customization, and other upgrades to make up your progress between seasons. And as I say that, I can almost sense your eyes glazing over, so here's how Bungie plans things to stand out. I'm going to first talk about what's like actually rock solid, but there is something. I think it's basically what they consider to be the ace up their sleeve that they haven't actually played yet. So, big picture, you play as a runner, which basically is a synthetic humanoid with power sets like radar pings, grappling hooks, and that kind of thing. There's 6 at launch, making up 3-player teams. You can play with less, but Bungie won't alter the difficulty, so it's really intended to be played with a group of people.
I will continue to preach to the choir. Most extraction shooters are like that, unless like the Hunt Showdown is like that. I think maybe it even has a campaign. You play Tarkov, the level difficulty doesn't change whether you're for group or not. I mean it does, but not inherently. Like, it's not the system that's gauging the difficulty. It's just whether you as a player, you have all these different skill levels. Can you outmaneuver a group? Are you good enough? And if you are a good player, you can. But there's no like actual scaling in some of these games like people want for Marathon.
Then, of course, there's Bungie's storytelling, and if you said that to me 10 years ago at the start of Destiny, I would have said, no, BS, they've kind of lost that. But no, they actually are able to do some cool stuff. So, seasonal stories will be told through faction missions, like bounties, map-based activities, the environment. It seems to less be, sit down and look at this cutscene, gamer, and far more, you kind of piece it together as you play. If they nail that feeling and the gameplay matches it up, even if it's not the most unique gameplay feature set, it could could result in an emotional experience, right? Between the mechanics, the tension of the mode, the storytelling, the sounds, all of that could actually work for players. But in terms of core gameplay, it seems what's actually setting this game apart is the AI, where basically playtesters are backing up the idea that the PvE side of this is actually really hard, and that the AI is actually good, which, to be honest, does sound kind of exciting. And if you combine that with map design and PvP, you get a game that, at least according to testers, is particularly lethal even for the extraction shooter genre, which may sound absolutely awful to you, but if you love extraction shooters, maybe you do actually love that, and it's what you want. Now,
I mean, Tarkov has PvE. They have bosses that will kick your ass. Like, they do have really stupid AI, but like, if I'll give you an example, if you go in without any guns, you get what's called tagged, and so every AI NPC will come after your ball sack, and they will try to kill you, and it is hard. You can't just rush and stab him in the face with a knife. It is hard mode. Tarkov can be very hard, and it can be very fickle, and you can get one shot by the most trash AI NPC possible, and it makes you feel really stupid.
Now, some of that could just be because they invited loads of high-level streamers, so of course, like, the people playing at test events are really good at the game and it will feel lethal, but it does seem Bungie are playing up the idea that the experience of playing Marathon and generating stories is the real draw, that with the lethality, the AI being so good, the vibes, the way they do the storytelling, that losing can feel like a reward because the emergent story, right, of your gameplay is just so unique, so cool. And I think that's a sense that they really tried to push through in their cinematic. I can absolutely rationalize why this game is going to be amazing and actually stick out on the market, but realistically, people are seeing the feature set, they're kind of rolling their eyes at much of it, and they're thinking, that looks like it's really fun gameplay, but what's going to set this apart? And also, you've got the business model wrong. I did promise you, I did tease that there's rumors abound, right? That there are Destiny raid boss style PvE things going on. And there's even a rumor that the fourth map that they'll add is like actually in the ship for Marathon. So that could be kind of cool. And that might be the ace up their sleeve that they pull whenever pre-orders.
Which doesn't make sense. Their ace of their sleeve is raid mechanics, which is Destiny, which is PvE. And they've told people they're not making a PvE mode, and that if you want PvE, this game is not for you. Yet they're making PvE mechanics in a PvP game. Who's this game for? And why are you advertising it to Destiny players?
Open or something like that. So that's basically what's going on. But another side to this, and one that will present tension for them, is, well, extraction game rewards and progression. So you do get cosmetics, and those will be retained permanently after they're earned.
Cool.
But experience, gear, loot will be wiped every season. And to Destiny players, that will be shocking. That will be bad. Because Destiny is all about like the accrued progress. That's going to feel bad, but it is basically the standard of how extraction shooters try to combat power.
I like this guy already. He's done his research on Destiny, and he knows Destiny players better than Destiny players do. He knows Destiny players better than they know themselves. Absolutely. The people, like the content creators from Destiny, whose community's like, oh, this is going to be amazing, they're not going to be the ones that actually buy this game. And if they do, they're going to refund it the moment they lose all their stuff or they have no success. They're going to realize this is not what I thought it was going to be. Yeah, that's an extraction shooter. It's a niche for a reason.
Power creep over time. So overall then, the risk here is there is nothing wildly different about what Bungie are offering here for the genre fans, right? The main distinctive features are the setting and the gameplay pedigree of Bungie, and those things could be quite strong, but that's also led to an overwhelming sense of confusion because those are things that appeal to Destiny fans. But it doesn't necessarily appeal to Destiny people, and the apparent target audience of this game are already entrenched in the incumbents, leading many to say, who the hell is this for? Will people actually buy it?
He said the thing! Holy crap! Yes.
Aren't just pieces of software featureless. They're emotional, they're experiential, and that's why not everyone is on board with this reveal. That's why there's this undercurrent that's driven by a lot of friction. A lot of people do not like that this is how Marathon has been revived. I mean, if you went and watched the Mandalore gaming videos on Marathon, goddamn, the idea of more Marathon is exciting. But what is Marathon? Well, it's, I guess, a grungy, dank 1994 Macintosh single-player FPS that's got some multiplayer arena that's also the forward.
You can play, apparently you can also play on Steam now. They brought it over to Steam, which I'm very tempted to play.
Runner to Halo. Marathon 2025 ain't that. It's a neon corpo-punk aesthetic that does kind of amazingly look like it's full of hard edges, but actually has no hard edges. That's impressive. But it's also a multiplayer-only extraction shooter. That will not register as Marathon to many people, not in a way that's rooted in what they know of Marathon. And to make that worse, there's an almost Ubisoft level of let's just follow the new genre hotness. Because everyone wants an extraction shooter, right? Everyone wants a bit of Tarkov, a bit of Hunt Showdown. It does kind of feel like that era where everyone was trying to have a battle royale game, and we all eye-rolled at all of them. Being real with you, I don't think it's actually as bad with the extraction genre as it was with battle royale, but it's the same pattern. We're all sensitized to it. And that means that when Marathon was announced in 2023, well, the same general frustration was there. I mean, goddamn, there was Marathon, there was Hyenas. Remember Hyenas? Now, it's years on from that, and it has only got worse. I mean, even From Software are making an extraction game. FromSoft.
Wait, they are? That's what Night Rain is? Oh, I didn't even know it was an extraction shooter. I thought it was just I thought it was you know what? I didn't actually know what it was. I plead ignorance. I had no idea. I would rather play this because it's catering to the Elden Ring audience. Like hey, this is Elden Ring, but it's also it's PvP, which, by the way, FromSoft games do have actual PvP in them. Like, it's not like, oh, surprise, we're doing something you've never done before. No, this is literally, they're taking what has been PvE and PvP. It's like taking Destiny and just making the PvP a new game. That's what it is. Whereas Marathon is like, we're just doing something completely different.
We're actually living in a world where the Duskbloods, which is the new FromSoft game, is kind of being taken with suspicion because even though it's FromSoft, it's an extraction game, and yeah, people are kind of skeptical.
Oh wait, is it not? Okay, I got it backwards. So this is a new game. That's not what Night Rain is. Elden Ring Night Rain. I thought that's what that was. Maybe I'm completely wrong. So this is a different game that's not even Elden Ring.
And beyond that, many just look at the aesthetic, the tone, and the Destiny-esque gunplay and simply don't want to fight other players. And this is where Bungie have really hurt themselves. Halo PvP was a big thing, right? I mean, come on, it was Halo goddamn PvP. Destiny 2 PvP, though, well, it looked like it could have been a really good thing, but for years and years and years, they chronically underserved their PvP audience. And that...
Isn't it crazy? Every PvP player in Destiny feels seen. Like, I'm not even like a main, but I know you guys out there who main PvP, you've been seen.
That does mean that the PvP loving Bungie game players kind of left because Bungie didn't really take them seriously. The players that Bungie are left with are people who lean PvE, and that clashes with the core of Marathon. But of course, perhaps worse than any of that, there's money and how they're trying to sell this game. Imagine this, roleplay is this. The day is September 23rd, 2025. You're a gamer who loves looting and loves shooting, and two games that just came out. One of them is called Marathon, and the other one is Borderlands 4. Yeah, two looter shooters, you know, ish. One has got a campaign, no PvP, and actually more name recognition. Launching against Borderlands 4 is kind of brave for Bungie, especially because this is not a niche extraction title. The whole point of a game like this is that extraction is brought to a big, broad audience.
Oh, it's so good.
But if that's an audience with a lot of crossover with Destiny, I think they'd rather play Borderlands 4, honestly.
Yep.
It sure looks like a brave and foolhardy move from Bungie, but there's actually a little kernel of genius here. I'm not messing with you, there really is. Take-Two publishes Borderlands. Take-Two also publishes a little game called Grand Theft Auto.
Yep.
And it could actually be that going alongside Borderlands with your launch window is just about the only way you can surefire avoid the next Grand Theft Auto game. And as much as Borderlands is a tough fight, I would rather fight it than Grand Theft Bloody Auto.
I think we can all agree this is exactly their thought process is, how do we stop a nuke from dropping on top of our heads and effectively just throwing our game in the gutter? We'll just compete against Borderlands, and the people who will play. We will get some people versus no people. Essentially, it's a mindset.
But here's where they've lost people. The fact that this is a premium game. I'm seeing people say that premium is a big mistake, generically speaking. I think that's even more of a point knowing that this is going to be fighting with a really big game like Borderlands 4. Now, if this was a free-to-play game, launching alongside Borderlands wouldn't really be as much of a problem. Yes, Borderlands would eat up attention, but you could just download Marathon, try it, and if you enjoyed it, well, there you go.
Yep.
You might actually turn into a retained player. But instead, no, Marathon is going to be a premium game. Now, they say it's not going to be a, quote, full price title, which basically means $40, like Helldivers and like Concord, which obviously worked really well for Helldivers and a little bit less well for Concord. That's got people worried. And on top of that, of course, there's also going to be battle passes and a Helldiver-style cosmetic shop. That's a lot of asks for money, and well, if you just take a look at Destiny and you think about the evolution of its business model, the idea of Marathon being premium price that's also got lots and lots of different ways to spend even more money, that could feel pretty bad, because Destiny 2's business model has felt, to be completely honest with you, fucking awful for...
Why is it every fucking person is on the same page except for Destiny players? They will eat shit and say it's sprinkled ice cream, but people on the outside will look in and be like, you're fucking stupid.
A long time, and they've done ridiculous shit again and again and again.
Because the community
this
lets
means
it.
that whenever people immediately react by saying Marathon is dead, I do kind of get why they say that, right? And yes, it's a multiplayer game. That means you need a strong network effect for it to grow. Paid access definitely will hurt your user acquisition. But when we think about the extraction genre, well, the biggest, longest lasting PvP extraction shooters are also paid games, right? It's Tarkov, it's Hunt, and there are free examples. There's Arena Breakout, Vigor, and Delta Force, but one of the most prominent free-to-play games was The Cycle Frontier. That's a game that, amongst other factors...
This is what kind of reminds me of Marathon. This game right here. People don't recognize that there has been already a cycle, see what I did there, of these extraction shooters. And that's why a lot of people feel like Marathon's late to the party, because we've already had those cycles. Ding, ding, I did it again.
Died because of rampant hacking from people who could just jump in on another free account. So paid access for the extraction genre, just because the stakes are so high, does kind of make sense. And there's another aspect as well. A price tag does result in self-selection. Now, if the price tag is on Concord, that just means that everybody self-selects out of being a Concord player. In this case, it does mean that players who don't like the genre won't try it out, and if they don't try it out, they won't feel burnt. They won't.
So here's the thing. He makes a very good point about, and Bungie's kind of done this with Destiny, where like the end game is like, I think comp is the same way, competitive, but also trials, what's called Trials of 9, but just a little small mode. No one really knows about. You have to buy the Final Shape expansion in order to have access to it. And so you can't just make a new account and just play. You have to buy. And we've seen like Tarkov does the same thing where you have to rebuy it. But let's be 100. It benefits the developers more than it develops the actual player base. Like when it comes to cheaters, because we know that cheaters, based on like Tarkov alone, people will have no problem buying new accounts. They will do it. They will absolutely. In fact, there's a business, even in Destiny, where people will make new accounts. They will unlock the new player experience and they will ship it out ready to go. And people will hop on and immediately start cheating in PvP with the burner account. We already know this. And the people that benefit is Bungie. Or BG. Or was it Battlestate. BSG. Sorry, BSG. For Tarkov. They benefit. And what's even funnier is that unlike Battlestate, Bungie has advertised that there's going to be better anti-cheats in this game. So if it already has better anti-cheats in this game, why does it need to be paid? If that's really one of the reasons why it's a premium?
Dislike it, they won't tell all of their friends that they played it and didn't like it. So I can kind of see why premium could work, why they could rationalize it, and basically how, by making it premium, it suggests to the viewer that it is a game of premium value instead of just yet another free-to-play that's just lost in a big torrent of slop. But as much as I say that, well, people do tend to break games down into hard numbers without the context of hands-on experience. So 3 maps, 6 characters. Dead game. There you go. Simple as. That's what's going to happen on Twitter, and that's going to be an uphill battle for Bungie, especially with nothing else obviously distinct outside of really good Bungie gunplay and an IP revival that I guess people can talk about. But let's be real, this is not Marathon for Marathon lovers. I mean, there's not that many Marathon.
I mean, let's be honest. They're gonna have a map that's Marathon, and that's probably gonna be the most Marathon that's Marathon. Based on all the footage and gameplay I've seen, it's probably going to be the most Marathon that we have outside of like the map itself.
Lovers, I'm not really saying they should have done the perfect spiritual sequel, but yeah, it's strange.
Looks like
Marathon's an IP, but it doesn't feel like this is the best use of it, or like Marathon is going to suddenly mean that this is a humongous win. Not unless
it looks actually kind of badass,
really
to be honest.
Cool narrative things, which with Marathon they absolutely could.
Dude,
so big picture, it's no wonder that people are worried about another failing PlayStation Live service. But the real question.
It's crazy that I was more excited for this old game gameplay, and I'm actually actively thinking about buying it. And I looked at Marathon, I'm like, no, I'm good.
Though, is have PlayStation actually learned their lesson? Marathon is being framed as the test case for PlayStation plans. Now, obviously, one test case was Concord, but I'm not moving the goalposts here. Concord obviously was a flop, but, well, Destiny was a big deal when the acquisition was struck. It was the example of a live service model being financially successful. That obviously changed after the deal went through. I'm sure PlayStation feels amazing about that. And of course, Bungie's troubles have meant, well, more and more of their staff have just been subsumed.
Bungie is fantastic. They're phenomenal at screwing people over. If there's one thing that's good about Bungie, is that they're great at screwing people, and not in like the hot, sexy way, just the absolute, like with a cactus.
Zoomed into PlayStation in the last year alone. Bungie was not just purchased to help other studios make live service games. It was purchased to make games. That's why Marathon was developed. Now remember, this is all part of PlayStation's live service push. If they cannot have a game launch from the studio that they acquired because they're live service specialists, if they can't have that be successful, that will be brutal for their overall strategy. It will likely prove it wrong and Helldivers a fluke. That's rough. And PlayStation are not stopping their live service push. Yes, they cancelled loads of games, and that made real big news headlines, but there are other games. As an example, Haven Studios' Fair Games. Will people believe that Fair Games can be successful if the people hired to guide the entire live service push cannot succeed with their own game? I.e., if Marathon fails. That will be brutal. Neither Bungie nor PlayStation can afford another Concord-level failure, and I think here it's very easy for people to see the patterns. I think especially.
I also think that a lot of people are going to expect that Sony's going to punish all the developers involved in Marathon in some way, and none of the leaders in charge of these projects are going to have any accountability. Just not a single one of them. Even in Sony, those leaders who are pushing for, this live service garbage, they're not going to be punished. It's everyone else, because you got to think that, yes, there's people in Marathon who actively want it to be a success. They put some time and effort to it. Doesn't mean you should actually care. because it may not be for you, but you got to realize it's not like they're making a game with the intention of it to fail. I don't think most developers do. And I feel like Marathon, if it had more time to cook, instead of, well, I thought it had like a full 6 years, but apparently it only had 4 years. It needed more time to cook.
Especially because, look, Concord was made by loads of ex-Bungie developers. Now, I do think that Marathon...
I keep forgetting that's a reality. That Concord was made by ex-Bungie developers. And now there's Concord developers that are now part of Bungie making Marathon. It is like, how do we recycle this mess? And it doesn't look good for Marathon.
It's almost certainly not going to be another Concord. When I look at it, I do think it's got a lot more going for it. I mean, obviously, there's Bungie's name. There's the developers behind it. There's the fact this is the first new game in 8 years from the studio. Novelty alone will draw attention. And unlike Concord, I think that the aesthetic is a lot better here. It's more distinct.
It's not as
bland. The character designs are pretty damn solid. The gameplay does appear to be really strong. What it needs, though, is a hook to convince people. And as of right now, they do not have that. However, that rumor that you could have a fourth map that's in the Marathon, that's got a PvE element that's basically like a Destiny boss fight, and that's all playing out, well, that does seem like something that we're not getting from The Hunt or from Tarkov. That could be their thing, that people basically just see and believe. But right now, they do not have that. So here's what I believe. Here's my mental model of this game, right? I can see this being fun. I can see this being thrilling.
I just want to make a note. This is supposed to be a PvP game. And there's no proximity chat. Why is there a raid boss fight? It doesn't matter if it's unique. It doesn't make any sense. Like, not a fucking sense. It makes sense in a battle royale like Fortnite, who has essentially exactly what he said. It is in Fortnite, they have these big bosses, these big, you can get golden weapons and stuff from them. And it's really cool because if you die from it or other enemies fighting for it, it's no big deal. But you're talking about a game that punishes you for losing all your loot. That is what an extraction shooter is. You lose everything. You don't just lose the game, you just lose all your stuff. And it feels really freaking bad.
Thrilling. I think in many ways it looks gorgeous. I think they're doing interesting things with their art style. But my struggle is in seeing the sort of long-lasting player relationship that this studio wants. To get that, they'll need to modify the preferences of many of the players that they've got, who in playing Destiny are not, signing up for an extraction shooter.
Yeah.
They'll have to do that. They'll have to then attract lots of new players. I find that hard to see. However, success at the grandest scales is being right when others are wrong. That is what will define an outsized success that can change an industry. And my failure here could be a failure of imagination, that I literally cannot imagine a world where this game takes off with a big enough audience. In my mental model of the industry, the potential extraction audience is not big enough, I think, for this to be what they need it to be.
I don't think the extraction pool is big enough. And I think based on just we have history. There's history, whether people like it or not. There is historical evidence to show when people see a game and they immediately do not like it, that's the presidents that game is not successful. We've seen it. Dragon Age Velguard. That was a flop. Obviously Concord. Everyone loves using that Concord. Is it Redfield? Like Suicide Squad. I mean, I could sit here and probably list a bunch of stuff that's flopped. There's been a lot of stuff that just wasn't received from the get-go, and when it came out, it wasn't received. And the presidents of it really just showcased that people were right. The market determines the value from the reveal to the release. And right now, the market overwhelmingly does not like Marathon. And I don't think 5 months with no narrative, 5 months of just like 4 maps and a couple of characters, and it's a premium, which you have to pay to get into, and then you have to pay, the subscription to play online for both Xbox and console. All these factors, I don't see it being successful. I just don't. Will I think it'll absolutely be, dead like Concord? I think people are over skewing how bad Concord was. But do I think this might be like Halo Infinite bad? Yes. When we see how Halo Infinite is right now. It is literally on life support. But unlike Microsoft, who has a lot of expendable money, Bungie doesn't. Bungie doesn't have that kind of money. And right now they have a gun to their head because of Sony. So them making just a game that's surviving. Remember, surviving doesn't mean it's thriving. A surviving game is not, 2 surviving games doesn't make up the $3.7 billion that Sony made. And they're expecting more out of it. And if it doesn't, I don't think Bungie will be surviving.
But it could be that the potential Extraction audience is in fact far larger than just the hardcore incumbent games suggest. And if Bungie are good at doing anything, it is basically taking something and making it mass market. A little bit like how Apple really does not invent new technology or do any of that cutting edge innovation. Where they innovate is in integration and final experience. If Bungie gets that right, then you could have people who would never play Hunt, who would never play Tarkov, happily playing Marathon. But I think it's an uphill battle. Let me know what you think, and if you want to learn about another uphill battle, one that even a ex-Nintendo PR person is calling a, quote, worst case scenario, what's
All right, links will be down below. Now, I'm curious about the whole, was I leaders to cut and run after Marathon? Where's that at? Where was that at? Sources, Video Game Chronicles, IGN. Oh, I'm very curious, where exactly was that at? Where was that they're gonna cut and run? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but okay. They need to hold these executives accountable. No bonuses. No. Oh, I remember. He said at the very beginning, he said there's a chance. So it's all conjecture. Yeah, it is very true. There's been a lot of rumors. I remember the point. He said that they're about to get paid out and then, dip. That's conjecture. Listen, I think it is logical conjecture that they could do that. We've seen precedents that is something that they would do. Also, it's not the first time gaming companies have done that, like leaders who have had a failing ship. But there are 2 things I can't get behind. The conjecture that they're going to run, even though I think logically it makes sense, but also the fact that this is going to flop like Concord. Those are 2 things that I've yet to get behind in the whole Marathon situation. This is not it for me. But you let me know. Obviously, it's being received well. I'm going to subscribe. That way I can keep following along. You guys, let me know what you think. Do you think that Bungie leaders are going to cut and run as soon as they get their big paycheck? Do you think they're going to let the Bungie, the company, die out and be absorbed by Sony? Let me know in the comments down below. As always,